The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Wednesday, the 19th day of March, 2025. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy. I'm Jamel Hartman, and Thaao Dill will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in the news break brought to you by People's. Well, it is Wednesday. To many people, that represents the middle of the traditional work week, hump day, just getting over the hump. So good morning, greetings, good afternoon, and if you're somewhere tuned in where it is evening, good night. Welcome. We've got a lot to discuss today. We have one of you all's favorite guests on today, Mr. Craig. Well, I'll tell you in a bit, but before we get to that, how's everyone feeling? We're just a month and a day since the election. We've had a lot of information shared with us over the last month, whether it's 7,000 to 9,000 people who've left Bermuda, the 1,000 plus homeless people. We've got some good news. We've got 14 women, I believe, Bermudians representing Bermuda in Dubai right now. We've got a throne speech that's been delivered. The premier seems pretty confident in addressing the cost of living. We've got CIT on the way. And we've got my North Village Community Club in the driver's seat for the Premier League title and hopefully the FA Cup. So that's some positive news. How about that? How's everybody else feeling today? Greetings, everyone. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today. As I just mentioned, we have the Economist and Educator, Craig Simmons, on. We're going to be discussing the economy, jobs, and more. So get your questions ready because you all love to engage Mr. Simmons. The daily play is music today. Music. So hopefully you all know your tunes, all right? Hopefully you know your tunes. Don't forget to do us a favor, subscribe on our website, follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. I have a big announcement as well. Once Thaao comes on to do the news break, I'll share an announcement about the Daily Hour 5-year anniversary celebration, which takes place on April 26th at LF Wade International Airport. We'll be celebrating 5 years and 1,100 plus episodes of this daily talk show. But we have an announcement to make, some very special things taking place that night that I'm sure all of you will want to be a part of. But that said, let's jump into today's conversation. So you may have seen it across multiple media platforms and news outlets yesterday, but titled, I'm going to read from the Royal Gazette, titled "Hospital on Critical Alert Over Bed Shortages." So the story basically says waiting lists for people requiring a hospital bed have climbed to record levels because medically fit patients are not being discharged. The Bermuda Hospitals Board confirmed that 34 people were waiting for a bed at King Edward Memorial Hospital, while more than 40 patients were medically fit but had not been discharged. Acknowledging that the facility was under growing pressure, a BHP spokeswoman said that its alert level had been upgraded to 3, with 4 being the highest. The spokesperson added, to increase capacity with immediate effect, 2 of the larger acute care wing inpatient unit rooms on each floor will take 2 medically fit for discharged patients per room, as there are 3 units, this will open up 6 additional rooms for patients needing acute care. The patients doubling up will be patients who are medically fit for discharge. The arrangement will impact visiting for these patients. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I don't understand hospital language. I don't understand hospital language. Question of them, so I don't know what medically fit means. Now, I have my former father-in-law, prior to his death, had a stroke, and I felt like he wasn't in a position to leave a hospital, but hospitals push people, that's how I felt, pushed him out, and basically said there's nothing more they can do for him. And for me, I always wondered, is there nothing more because insurance is no longer covering it? Is there nothing more that they can truly do? I don't know. I don't have and this sounds bad, but I just don't have a favorable perspective or view of hospitals in general. But the question of the morning for you all is, what are your thoughts on the shortage of beds at King Edward Memorial Hospital? What are your thoughts on that? And of course, we have a QR code for you because we understand people's privacy in discussing these. But the other question is, have you or someone you know been directly impacted by the bed shortage at the hospital? So you can actually just use the QR code. I'll put it up on the screen. And the question again is, have you or someone you know been directly impacted by the bed shortage at the hospital? But again, the general question this morning is, what are your thoughts on the shortage of beds at King Edward Memorial Hospital? What are your thoughts on it? Like, how do you feel about the shortage of beds? How should we address this? I know some people feel, well, the hospital was poorly built. And look, at the end of the day, I'll say it to you, we're here now. We are here now. It's like people always talk about the Technical Institute, right? Well, we're here now. How do we fix it, right? That's the QR code. Again, if you want to remain anonymous or private, you can just use that. Or in the comments, sorry, I forgot to put the link in the comments. If you'd like to share in the comments, you can go on to Facebook, YouTube, or our website and click that link if you'd like. But again, question of the morning is, what are your thoughts on the shortage of beds at King Edward Memorial Hospital? Like, what's the solution to this, audience? What do you think needs to be done? And have you or someone you know been directly impacted by the shortage at the hospital? And we have Traveling Trotty says yes. I believe she or someone she knows has been directly impacted by the bed shortage at the hospital, which is shameful. And I think this came up, I think it was former Member of Parliament Anthony Richardson had a town hall prior to the election, and I think the hospital bed shortage may have come up there. I think that's where it came up. But anyway, this is not something new. This has been talked about for years. But how do we address it? How do we fix it? How do we fix this, audience? Because what I see happening in our community, and it really upsets me, I feel like we don't share our opinions. We don't speak out. We don't take things on until they directly impact us. And I don't want us to be like that. Like, I've said this before, but I remember when conscription was coming to an end and people would say to me, oh, okay, conscription's done. You don't have to fight anymore. Your tool's done. And I'm just like, it was never really just about conscription. Yes, that impacted me. But it's really about social justice. It's about righting wrongs and helping people like where they need assistance, right? And if there's one hope or wish that I have for our community is that we don't sit back and watch others do all the heavy lifting, and that we somehow get involved and provide solutions. Now, I understand everyone's not built to fight the same, but everyone can still contribute in some way. So again, what are your thoughts? Don't wait till it hits you or your family to say, well, we need a hospital bed and we can't get one. What are your thoughts on the shortage of beds at King Edward Memorial Hospital? What's some solutions to it? How can we deal with it? Let us know. And also, have you or someone you know been directly impacted by the bed shortage at the hospital? All right, let's go to the audience. Marquita Lee says yes, been impacted. Media Maya says yes, been impacted. All right, let's see. Anyone else impacted? What are your thoughts? We had the QR code up. Oh, maybe I need to sign in to see if anyone's hit that. Okay, sorry, the QR code is not working. I put that up and you would not believe. Sometimes it's user error. Sometimes it's user error. So you probably clicked that QR code and link and didn't even see that question. My apologies. My sincerest and most humble apologies. All right, so we'll get it right now. So you can go back to the QR code. My apologies, and use the link in the comments to head over there to that. But I honestly, I don't love hospitals, and I'll share something I'll share something with you that's very personal. Living outside of Bermuda while my mom was sick was a very hard thing. And my sister, one day I said, is there anything I can do? And she said, yeah, come back to your mother. And I flew to Bermuda, and probably a couple days later, if not the next day, and spent the night in the hospital. And it was something that I was thankful that she was able to have a hospital room and get the treatment needed at the time. But because of my experiences in the hospital then and with my former father-in-law prior, it just is a place that I just don't like to be, don't want to be. I could not imagine being one of those people mentioned in that article who needed a hospital room or a bed and could not get it. And we have to find a solution. We have to, this can't continue. Why can't it continue? It's something that you all say on almost a daily basis. And that's the fact that we have an aging population. This is a crisis. It's a crisis, and we need to fix it yesterday. Let's go back to the audience. Sean Smith says, very concerning. Do these patients have somewhere to go once discharged? That's a very important question, Mr. Smith. Very important question. Do we just dump them? Marquita Lee says, can beds in the old hospital be used, or are they being used? From what I was told, I did ask that question before, and so I was told, I don't know if this is true, folks, but I was told that's what they use for maternity. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I did ask that, not from someone at the hospital, but I did ask that of someone who may have knowledge. Freddie Evans says, Hartman, I remain incredibly proud of you. Anyone who has recently had to attend the emergency rooms knows the hospital is woefully inadequate and overcrowded. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that. But that's so sad. It's great. I mean, we have one major hospital in Bermuda. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And it's something we need to address, folks. And I plead with you, seriously. I plead with the Bermudian public. This is something that we need to be loud about. It's something we need to be very loud about with our aging population. This is, look, man, this may not impact me directly right now, but it does impact me, because at the end of the day, I do this because of all of you. I want us to have these conversations to fix these problems in our community. We've got to find a way to fix this before it gets even worse. My hope is that we all care enough before we feel like no one cares about us. Shana Smith says, I could say so much as a former hospital employee, but this crisis was predicted about 15 years ago, and the country has not planned for it all. Sorry. We have an aging population, indeed. She says that the old hospital is completely full, and Diane Elliott says maternity and long-term care in the old hospital. That's what I was told. It's maternity, yeah. This is a crisis, and I just want to give a shout out to those. I don't want to call names because you all don't like me calling your names, but people who bring these stories to my attention. I'm grateful for you, whether it's through WhatsApp, whether it's through email, whether it's through my DM box, whatever social media platform. But I appreciate you, because I may have been preparing for a totally different conversation this morning, and then I read this yesterday, and I appreciate it because this is relevant, this is now, and this is something we need to deal with. And remember what I said prior to the election about, yeah, you're going to vote, but all your power is not in your vote. This is something that every last person tuning in today should be on the phone with their MP about. These are the things I was talking about. Seriously. Suzanne Ingham said, "You're right, Jamal. It's unacceptable." Freddie Evans says the IT section needs to be removed from the hospital to create more room. Well, why can't that be moved on St. David's with the is it ICO department? It's not IC. Is it ICO? The IT department from government. Michelle White says, unfortunately, those still at the hospital do not have any place to go. Either they were homeless, family can't take them in, or no longer want to care for them. Family is stressed, and it's a way out. This is sad. This is sad. And, on top of that, I just mentioned a few minutes ago that it was shared in the news recently that we have a homeless population that I believe is over 1,000 people right now. We have crisis upon crisis in Bermuda, folks. This is not how our community is supposed to be. Sean Smith says, I remember when Mr. Thomas wanted to open a hospital in Hamilton and they shut him down. Who's Mr. Thomas? Is you talking about Mariko Thomas? I thought, didn't he open? I could be wrong, but I thought it opened. Nicole Walker says families are struggling to afford the continuing care needed for their loved ones to go back home. A lot of seniors just don't have adequate insurance for in-home care. This is sad, and I'll say this much about this. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and I appreciate all you all who reach out. I don't have a lot of time to talk, but I want to say this. The person brought to my attention, and I said this years ago when we first started the show, and someone had reached out and said, man, I never thought about what you spoke about. And as someone who worked in an IB company. And I said that one thing I've learned from my position being made redundant or laid off, however you want to, I say fired, but whatever. But one thing I've learned from that is every last person who has a job should be prepared to be unemployed. Let me say that over. Every person who is employed today should be prepared to be unemployed tomorrow. And as someone said to me yesterday, we don't talk about retirement funds a lot anymore. And it was a tweet, I believe, yesterday that it was percentages, like 27% of people have less than 5,000 in retirement savings, 42% have less than 20,000 retirement savings, right? There was a time when we spoke about not only retirement savings, but an emergency fund. We're in a dire situation. And I say that on the back of what Nicole Walker said. I think what this is going to require is sacrifice. I know a lot of that sacrifice makes uncomfortable reality for many of us, but it's going to require sacrifice. What do I mean by sacrifice? It may mean me asking my colleague Thaao and Wendy, can I sleep on their couch for a couple months? They ain't gonna let me do it, but you get what I'm saying. And I'm being serious by saying this. It may require us making some huge sacrifices and changing our behaviors and our ways. That may be our way out. Let's go through these final few comments. We've got to bring Thaao Dill in. Don't forget, we've got economist and educator Craig Simmons coming on. We're going to be discussing the economy and jobs. Michael Daniel says, I would like to see the local doctors come together and establish a rehab center that is run by doctors. I love that idea, Michael Daniels. I actually love that. Manuela Jones said, from the design of the new hospital, this problem is not surprising. I always thought there was too much wasted space. Used to have a 2-patient and 4-patient rooms as well as private rooms. Many people have said that for years, the design. Shamari Sky says they need to build more rooms. They have a lot of empty space, so we need to utilize it. Yep, I've heard that before. Renee Simmons says all these years, the old hospitals could have been renovated and upgraded, especially since they knew there was limited space in the new facility. Surely they knew space would be required. Michael Daniel says rehab centers are a norm in the States. Diane Elliott says it's not just about an aging population, but oh yes, Diane, that last part, folks. It's also about an aging, unhealthy population. That part there. Charles H. Jefferson II says the issues, in my opinion, are beyond the hospital. We don't have enough rest homes available and or home caregivers to support our population. And the cost of those is usually beyond the means of many. Absolutely, Charles. Charles, that is something, having a family who deals with that. Yes. Michelle White says, facts, Jamal. Most people live hand to mouth and have nothing to spare for emergencies. Everyday life now can be considered an emergency these days. And it's unfortunate. Emily Gildill says, regrettably, there are next to no vacancies in the care facilities. It's sad. It's very unfortunate. Renee Simmons says, with the many schools closing, then make use of these and reconstruct some to nursing homes or rehabilitation facilities. I'm glad someone said that. We have some schools that are pretty much not going to be in existence. What's going to happen to those? Could those be facilities, additional hospital facilities or the like? Takes money to run them. Folks, we've got to bring Thaao Dill in. This was the Daily Discussion brought to you by our friends at Titan and Secure.
The Daily Discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Visit TitanEXBDA.com, your leading tour and transport provider specializing in Black History tours throughout the island. And SecureBDA.com for all your property management, waste management, residential, and commercial trucking needs. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is our commitment to you.
Thank you so much. Let's bring Thaao Dill in for Daily Hour News Break. Don't forget, we've got Economist and Educator Craig Simmons. Folks, in the meantime, do us a favor. If you appreciate the discussion and you're ready for Mr. Craig Simmons, whatever platform you're on, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram, give us a like, love, follow, share, subscribe, join. Make sure you are a part of these community conversations.
Morning, Jay. Morning, fam. Good to see you. Props due on a very engaging discussion this morning. This is essential work. Props due, Jay. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks, Tay. It's imperative that we don't let, and props to the audience members who actually continue to reach out to me to encourage me to talk about this thing.
Yeah, boy, I got some news today that as far as I can tell, hasn't shown up on the island, let alone anywhere else. So it's kind of an exclusive. Not like I reported it myself, but my Google game is mean. According to the St. Vincent Times, the basically big newspaper in St. Vincent, the Bermuda Monetary Authority has broken the law, and they're alleging in this story that the result of this is costing the policyholders of this one insurance company millions of dollars a year. Now, it's a little weird because I couldn't find any reference to it anywhere else but A, the SVT, but it's a legit newspaper, and B, it just dropped yesterday. So basically, a more than 10-year-old insurance company called Custodian Life's been shut down after the BMA unilaterally suspended their business activities, which has led to the company being put into liquidation. Now, this article claims that the BMA didn't give Custodian Life a fair opportunity to appeal its decisions by not providing timely responses to their correspondence, which prevented CL from filing their annual accounts, which led to the eventual petition for liquidation. Custodian is claiming this is costing their policyholders $1 million every 6 months, and a group of international financial advisors is quoted as saying Bermuda's regulatory credibility is under threat. If the BMA continues to operate without oversight, more companies will be driven out, more policyholders will suffer, and Bermuda's reputation will take a hit on the global stage. Now, if this is legit, it's a big deal. Now, I have no idea whether it is or it isn't, but it has been published by a credible, long-standing newspaper in one of our cousin Caribbean islands. What do you think?
I would love to hear what the BMA has to say, because if it's one organization that takes their credibility seriously, it's them, right?
That's what I was thinking. And what is entirely possible is that the folks at the St. Vincent Times have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and all similar words by bad faith actors on behalf of the custodian, trying to basically get revenge after doing some shiesty business, and then wanted to punish the BMA for doing what they were supposed to do. Like that seems plausible to me, but just the fact that they felt comfortable even publishing the story is noteworthy, I think.
Wow. Yeah. No, seriously. I want to hear from the BMA. Let's see if we can get a word from them on this. I mean, they've got to have a spokesperson.
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. But I only got this at about 1 a.m. this morning.
yes,
so
I tell you.
But yeah, so there wouldn't have been time for the BMA to respond. But if anybody wants to check this out, just Google St. Vincent Times Bermuda or St. Vincent Times BMA. It'll pop right up. Okay. Now, in other news, it turns out that part of the reason it takes so long to get potholes fixed in Bermuda is because of bad old laws. This from Minister of Public Works and Environment, Jashay Adams, during the new promo YouTube video for his ministry's throne speech priorities, which also mentions a significant shift in policy that local fishermen should be quite pleased to hear.
We will also amend legislation to improve our private roads, ensuring faster responses for road repaving, traffic calming measures, and other critical upgrades. Additionally, the government has heard the concerns of our fishermen, and in response, will pause the implementation of new marine protected areas until an agreement on enforcement and data collection has been reached.
So basically, maybe I'm being childish, maybe this is my immaturity. So basically the fishermen won, the government zero?
That's one way to look at it. Yeah. Or it could be in the embarrassing tradition of these kind of national policy issues, the can gets kicked down the road. So it might feel like a victory for the fishermen at one point, but another 4 or 5 years later, the outcome ends up being exactly where the original intention was from the state. Like that's possible too. So I don't know if they should start popping champagne at this stage.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. This is still government and politics.
Yeah. Now, this discussion of the morning brought up a very important issue. That is to say, it puts us all back in COVID times when King Edward was telling folks to avoid coming to the ER unless absolutely necessary because there weren't enough beds. We're back in that space for a very different and I would argue equally awful reason. The statement from the BHB explains that they're now at alert level 3, 4 being the highest because a record 34 people are waiting for beds that just aren't available because of the over 40 patients that are medically fit for discharge that have not been taken home. To increase capacity, 2 of the larger acute care wing inpatient unit rooms on each floor will take 2 medically fit for discharge patients per room. So yeah, horrible news. I don't know that it's anybody's. I don't know if it's anybody's fault specifically because every part of the community has contributed to this issue. From policymakers to medical professionals to just us out in the community not doing what we're supposed to do for entirely understandable reasons. So yeah, it just sucks, and hopefully they can sort it out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now, in other news that you may not be hip to, and this could be a really big deal with implications for us here in Bermuda, maybe. If you've got a family reunion later this year with some of your cousins from St. Kitts or St. Lucia or Antigua, they might only be able to attend via Zoom because going through the U.S. could get much, much, much harder for them. This will be the result of a new travel ban proposed by the Trump White House, which goes way further across the entire planet than the so-called Muslim travel ban from his first term.
Russia, Belarus, and Haiti are part of the 10 countries on the orange list, which calls for visas to be sharply restricted. And the yellow list includes over 20 countries, some in the Caribbean, that could face partial visa suspension if their governments fail to address, quote, deficiencies within 60 days.
Now, the Caribbean list also includes Haiti and Dominica. There's been no explanation as to what these smaller Caribbean countries have done to justify this added level of pressure. In fact, what could St. Kitts and Nevis possibly have done?
No, I actually was trying to read and find out. No, seriously, because I wanted to know, like, St. Kitts and Nevis. I mean, what could they have possibly done? And then again, this is not fact, folks. This is not any real research. So don't take my word like this is actual, like whatever. But I saw people saying that this is probably a reflection of St. Kitts's citizenship program, where they're allowing people to buy land just from anywhere. Apparently, that's what I saw written under a story. Yeah.
So they're like competition for Trump's what do they call it? Gold card.
It for what, 5 million? He's allowing it for 5 million, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you can purchase American citizenship for $5 million of investment.
Yeah. But I heard that was the thing. But I think it could come down to I think Trump will have limitations in terms of who can buy in the U.S. because I think in Florida, what Ron DeSantis did is ban Chinese from buying land. So it could be something like that, like trying to get them to not allow certain groups to buy land. I mean, again, that's speculation, folks. This is just what I'm reading, not fact. So don't take what I'm saying as something I researched.
That's gospel.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah. Okay. Now in other news, now this one, it has been I went to sleep about 1:30 after getting the news. I went to bed at about 1:30 after getting the news done. This is a story that kept me up at night being frustrated until like 2:15. Climate change, we all know, is a thing, maybe the thing for our species, which is why global leaders get together at events like the fast approaching climate change conference for 2025 in Brazil, aka COP30. However, a significant, let's say, oversight in the planning process for this event has been pretty difficult to ignore. You're not going to believe this.
This is going to be a highway, and this is where it's being built. Slicing through the Amazon rainforest. Protected land until now.
The government here have made a big deal about this COP summit being in the Amazon, about the need to protect the Amazon, but preparations for the summit have already cut down some of the last remaining protected forest in this area.
I absolutely hate that.
Like, we're going to have the event in the Amazon rainforest to make sure people can get eyes on the land that needs to be protected. But so we can all drive around the place, let's cut down a big chunk of the.
But it goes back to what you used to say to me about 20 years ago about our hypocrisy. We're so comfortable in our hypocrisy that we don't even see the irony in this stuff,
Yeah, I know. If you want to learn more, just Google it. I want other people to be as frustrated by that as me. Now, as far as the weather is concerned, a huge patch of low pressure that's covering most of the Western Atlantic is in our airspace, which is where the reason we'll be getting short bursts of rain for over the next day or so. Today's air temps will sit squarely in the 60s, so keep the hoodie close with the gentle breeze from the west-southwest.
Alrighty, thanks, Tay. Real quickly before you head out, days of the year, it's actually National Let's Laugh Day, right? So laughter is actually supposed to boost our mood, relieve our stress, strengthen our relationships. So just want to encourage people, not to forget to laugh. And I didn't have a joke today, but since it's Laugh Day, and I'm just gonna give you. Why are you sighing?
Huh?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna give you a laugh, Tate. I mean, you think I can make you laugh?
Yes, but not for the intended reasons, I think.
Here's a joke for you.
Okay.
Thaao, what's the best kind of music to listen to when fishing?
Heavy metal, so your hook will sink.
No, Thaao.
Oh.
Thaao, the best kind of music to listen to when you're fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Ready? Something catchy. Get it? Catch, fish, catchy joke.
Jay, you know what's ill, bro? Like, what? I've been a dad now for going on 9 years, right? Your dad joke game is so much meaner than mine. Like, I don't know how you did that. Like,
see, I'm helping you in that department, bro.
No.
I am. I'm helping you. I'll tell you real quickly before you head over.
Yeah.
So I did mention earlier, I mentioned that I was going to share an announcement with people about our gala celebration. So it's so much more than a gala, where we're celebrating 5 years and 1,000+ episodes. During that night, we will also be honoring someone who is very dear to Thaao and myself, Glenn Blakeney, for his contribution to media. So that's one announcement. We're happy to announce Glenn as someone who has done so much for this space and continues to do so much. And over the next coming weeks, you will learn a lot more about the various things that all of you enjoy. Some of the things that you feel entitled to, that you don't even realize that he gave to you. So
you can trace it right back to that guy.
Yeah. So we're excited to celebrate Glenn Blakeney on April 26th. So please, if you haven't already, make sure you get your tickets. Apparently they're selling fast now. So it's April 26th at LF Wade International Airport. You'll get proof that I'm taller than Thaao that night as well. Tay, have a great day. All right.
That's the only reason you want to keep me around. Just for that. Just for that.
I have longer legs than you. Sorry.
I'll see you in a couple of days, man.
All right, bro. Thaao Dill, folks. Do not go anywhere. If you've appreciated the conversation so far, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. Very important conversation coming up with economist and educator Craig Simmons. We're talking economy, jobs, and more. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes, 12 seconds.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Hi there, welcome to Medical House. We're located at number 6 Bakery Lane. I can't wait to show you all of the great stuff that we carry. Come on inside, let's see. Long days, long shifts, you no longer have to endure comfortable underwear. Designed by nurses, we now offer premium undergarments by Swoop that are unique, fun, comfortable, and functional. The only underwear you'll ever want to wear. Who says high quality functional products can't be stylish and comfortable at the same time?
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Unlock your business potential with BDC's General Microloan, offering up to $30,000 for Bermudian small and medium businesses. Whether it's for inventory, working capital, or equipment, we provide 100% guarantee on approved loans. Simple application, low interest rates, and fast processing. Apply today and make your business dream come true.
Bermuda heat is no joke. Is your AC ready for summer? A quick tune-up now can keep you cool, save energy, and prevent costly breakdowns later. Call 2920881 or book your service online at bac.bm.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medicals, Lenders, and People's Pharmacy. Don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. You've heard his voice before and you've seen his face. We talk economics, we talk business, we talk jobs, we talk economy, and we're going to do some more of that today. Let's give a warm TDH welcome to Craig Simmons. Greetings, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, we've got a new one. We've got to get you the new one. We've got to get you the new one. They just showed up with a new one, and I kind of stole one. How are you?
Never been better.
Oh, it sounds like retirement talking. It looks good on you, sir. It looks good on you. Well, first off, thanks for coming. Always welcome. Obviously, we were preparing for a budget conversation, and then the budget's been pushed back, so hopefully we'll get you back around then. But a lot has happened over just the last week or two that we can't just wait to have a conversation, Mr. Simmons. I mean, we're talking Trump tariffs. We're talking about, insurance execs, giving opinions on CIT and AI and the like. And so, audience, if you have any questions or comments for Mr. Simmons, please feel free to ask away. I'll get through as many as possible. But let's start with the Trump tariff situation. Let's start there. We've spoken about it on this show. The premier seems relaxed. Bermudians, not so much. How do Bermuda and Bermudians prepare for the potential impact of Trump's tariffs?
Wow. You could have started with an easier question, Jamal. Tariffs. I think we're probably going to have to lean heavily on entrepreneurs to help us with this problem. Many of our goods, if you think about buses in Bermuda, the buses came from China. If the buses happen to go through the US, well, they'll be subject to tariffs. But if those buses were put on a ship and the ship went to Peru that has a new mega port, and then it moved from Peru through the Panama Canal up to Bermuda, Bermudians could avoid paying a tariff on a bus. The reason why I'm bringing this up, I think entrepreneurs can be pretty good at learning the rules really well and then figuring out a way to break them. I don't know if that's the reason why the premier is relaxed. Maybe he doesn't want to spread panic, but it is a serious situation. I mean, it's, the Trump administration is really bigger than tariffs on goods. We in Bermuda sell services. That's our #1 export. We just have to hope that the Trump administration doesn't decide to tax our #1 service, which is in fact reinsurance. Hopefully he sort of looks at his mansion in Florida and decides that if he wants, there's a pretty good chance that the reinsurance on that mansion was made in Hamilton, Bermuda. And so hopefully he'll be sort of selfish and say, well, I don't want to have to pay more insurance on my mansion. So these are uncertain times. And I suppose the best thing that we can do is remain flexible.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because some of the suggestions just recently were that Bermuda needs to develop relationships outside the U.S. Now, the U.S. is our biggest trading partner as far as, everything, right? Imports, tourism, and the like. But how hard would it be for us to develop a relationship with the CARICOM countries, for instance, and Canada, which are, close enough per se, not the US, but should that be something of consideration? What are your thoughts on that regarding in response to tariffs?
Well, I would be highly surprised, shocked, if entrepreneurs haven't already started to think about that. I think most entrepreneurs, you're one, you have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D. You've always got backups. You're always thinking about contingencies. That's the way you get paid.
Yeah.
Governments aren't so good. So it's, you can't expect a government to solve the problem. We have these crazy people called entrepreneurs that fixate themselves on a really narrow problem. And it's good at these kinds of things. Entrepreneurs look at problems as opportunities. So whilst the status quo, yes, may be relying on bringing stuff in from the US, you can bet your bottom dollar that there are entrepreneurs looking at alternatives, bringing stuff from the Caribbean. I mean, already Mexico has entered into major trading relationships with the European Union because of what I'm going to call second order effects. So the first order is the imposition of these tariffs on the EU. Well, you can expect the rest of the world to try and figure out the best way to deal with that. And arguably the best way to deal with it is for the rest of the world to develop closer trading ties, whether it be for services or whether it be for goods. So this is what I expect to happen over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. we are in uncharted territory, but it is also a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to make an extra buck.
Indeed.
So they will.
Audience, if you have any questions or comments, again, you can send them through and we'll get to as many as possible. Let's shift gears a bit. So one of the greatest concerns you heard from Bermudians over the last couple of years, not just leading up to an election or around an election, was the cost of living, the cost of goods in particular. What are your thoughts on the government's approach to ensure, based on the throne speech at least, it seems that they want to ensure that duty relief that they've given to grocers and wholesalers is passed on to consumers to reduce the cost of goods. What are your thoughts on that? Telling like private entities, like you need.
Yeah, I mean, information is good, but I think it's indicative of the problem that we in Bermuda face. Duty isn't the #1 problem with respect to imports of food. It's the cost of food. I use the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization's food index as a proxy for where I think food prices are going to go. And right now in 2025, the trend is for food prices to continue to increase. That's horrible news for us in Bermuda, or a particular part. I mean, not everybody is affected by rising food prices the same. We have to be really, really clear about that. For those folks, poor people, and by poor, I mean someone making less than $1,000 a week, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for a number of reasons, not just because of food, because these folks, you talked about saving for retirement. I did some calculations out of the household expenditure survey that was done, a long time ago. And hopefully when the new one comes out, I can update those numbers. But using the figures from the household expenditure survey in 2013, the poor dissave. In other words, their spending is bigger than their income. So the idea of saving for retirement, it's just not on. And when food prices go up, you've got to find some creative way to get around it. And perhaps the most creative way to get around the problem of high food prices is to eat food that isn't healthy, because the healthy stuff is really, really expensive. So, you have to sort of say, okay, government, you're doing the best that you can. They've tried lowering duties, and the duties for most food is at zero or very close to zero. But again, and then you want to target grocery stores. Grocery stores are an easy target because they tend not to push back. But the margins in the grocery business are so narrow. If you want to get rich, that's not the place to go. You need some serious expertise. I've had conversations with retired grocers, and it's arguably the toughest business to be in. If you want to talk about a business that is not tough to be in, that we use all the time, that piece of plastic that you use to buy stuff, your debit card, that's the business to be in. Arguably, the markup is higher than the markup for cocaine, for most illegal substances. The markups are north of 70%. So every time you use that credit card, you are making Mrs. Visa and Mr. MasterCard richer and richer and richer. So if you want to, vilify someone, vilify the people, the card service people. Take it easy on the grocers. They are an easy target, and maybe that's why we go after them.
But I think it's conditioning, because I'm so happy you said that, because I say it on this show. I probably said it yesterday. We were talking about something that the retailers are not the evil, retailers period, but grocers especially. I know what it was. Someone mentioned the self-checkout at Linda's. And I said, well, Zach Moniz came on this show and actually addressed that, said, it's just an option for consumers. It's not eliminating jobs. I feel like in Bermuda, from a Bermuda context, that grocers and retailers have been very kind with that, because in the US, you go to a Target, there can be 20 registers and not one person working any of them. The only thing open, self-checkout, right? So grocers are actually doing people, it's a community service at this point to keep people employed. And I don't think we realize that because we have this sense of entitlement. But in you saying that, I said it, like, I don't know the grocery business, but it looks very hard to make money. Let's use produce, for instance. Produce has a very short shelf life. It's imported. How much money is lost on their produce? Like, if we actually asked the numbers, we would probably realize. But again, we're conditioned. We're not thinking about Mr. MasterCard or Visa or the banks. We don't look at them as bad, because we look at them as satisfying our wants, not our needs. They're satisfying our materialism. They're satisfying our, oh, I can go on, get that new bathing suit, or go on this new trip, or so on. It's a conditioning, right?
Yeah. So you're touching one thing called food security. If you think about spending $100 on food, about 30 of those dollars worth of food is wasted. So about a third of produce, food in Bermuda, goes in the trash. So, I've been working on a food security sort of group, and we're trying to figure out how we can connect the food insecure, mostly people earning less than $1,000 a week, with produce that people like us scoff at. So the tomato might be a little soft, or the bananas may have too many spots on it, and so it ends up going in the trash. So what we're trying to do, and what folks like Amari Duncan are trying to do, God bless his soul, is to essentially use the food that is on island and get it to the people who need it. Because from a nutritional point of view, food is perfect. We just have these very high standards about what we expect from it. Now, this is easier said than done, because in Bermuda, we don't have a thing called a Good Samaritan law. So imagine grocery store A decides that it has some milk that is nearing expiration, and they want to get it to somebody who's making less than $1,000 a week. Because we don't have Good Samaritan laws in Bermuda, if that milk that is given to a needy household causes someone to get sick, that grocery store is now open to litigation. And so that's one of the reasons why grocers are a little shy about getting food that is, maybe not in the best of quality to people that need it. So part of the problem is institution. It's a legal situation. But these are the kinds of things that we can do, concrete things that we can do to help those folks in need. Looking at food security. Another part of it would be the fact that only about 350 acres of Bermuda's arable land is being used for farming, whilst there is like more than double that amount available. Can we figure out ways to get those additional 300 acres under tillage, so that we can at least increase the supply of food? Having said that, it is not the solution, because growing food in Bermuda is expensive, because labor is very expensive. The seeds have to be imported. The fertilizer has to be imported. Folks like Chris Faria, again, bless his soul, have sort of launched programs with respect to backyard gardening. Anyone that's done their own backyard gardening, if they were to sort of carefully account for the time and the resources that they use to grow, say, spinach or carrots, they would discover that they're spending a heck of a lot of money in terms of their own labor. Now, you can say, well, my labor is free. Unfortunately, farmers don't have that luxury. But, producing food, growing food in Bermuda is expensive. It is not the solution. What is the solution? It's a multi-pronged thing. Being more efficient with the food that comes in, reducing the waste, that 30% waste, getting it down as close as possible to zero, increasing the amount of land under tillage. It's a multi-pronged thing, and of course, the government reducing duties to zero. And even then, food prices globally, again, if you go to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, you will have a leading indicator of where food prices are going. And they are on the rise because of geopolitical tensions and bird flu. I mean, egg prices in the US, ridiculous. In the US, goes to say, when those eggs end up in Bermuda. So, entrepreneurs, God bless them, we'll be figuring out, well, do we bring eggs up from Dominican Republic? Do we bring them up from the Caribbean? So we've got a lot of work that needs to be done. Complaining is not going to do it. And so there are people, rest assured, there are folks out there silently working on this problem.
I didn't even consider that. We've been speaking about that on the show, and you just, folks, I hope you got that. Growing our own food's expensive. It's not the solution. Yeah, I didn't consider everything you just said, and this is why these conversations are so important. Folks, keep your questions and comments coming. Trust me, we'll get to them. I want to shift gears to the, I don't want to say elephant in the room, but the big conversation regarding the economy seems to be the corporate income tax, and people believing that the government is banking on it. With all that's going on globally, some countries have decided not to go through with it. I believe Cayman and Bahamas in particular. But how do you see it working out for Bermuda and Bermudians?
I think it's interesting. At least the messages coming out of the premier's mouth have changed dramatically. We've had 2 throne speeches, one in October, and then one just the other day. The one in October said that we would be able to pay off our national debt of $3.2 billion in 10 years. I found that absolutely shocking. I think that was based on the idea, again, coming out of the Premier and Finance Minister's mouth, that we would be able to collect about $750 million of corporate income tax annually. And on that basis, we could pay off our debt in 10 years. In the most recent throne speech, there's no mention of those kinds of things, of paying off the debt. There's talk about a sovereign wealth fund. But I think there's a realization that this is a moving target, and you cannot count your chickens before they are hatched. I believe the pre-budget statement talked about getting about $187.5 million from the corporate income tax. Again, we have to remember the Americans have not ratified the global minimum tax. They are not a part of this scheme. Why is that important? There is no easy way out. And in fact, I'm sort of glad that there is no easy way out. We got ourselves into this mess. And it seems like, we're looking for some foreigner, because that's what the corporate income tax is. We don't have the courage to implement a profits tax, a corporate income tax on Bermuda companies, but we feel, comfortable doing it on foreign companies, and that, they'll get rid of our debt, the debt that we people created. And so there's something liberating for me about us suffering to pay off this debt, because I think if it's like if you got a son in university, and you send your son $10,000 for his education, and he decides to go off to Las Vegas and blow it all, and calls you up and says, well, Pops, I'm running short. Can you send me another $10,000? Well, the answer to that question is hell no. You need to find a way to pay your way. And That's what I'm looking for with this tax reform commission, that we need to find a way to pay our way and not sort of look for some tooth fairy to come down and magically make our problems go away. My fear is that if that were to happen in the near future, we would be right back here again with the same, if not bigger problem. Corporate income tax has got us sidestepping, as you say, the elephant in the room. Tax reform. We need to think seriously about tax reform. What would it look like? Why can't tax reform in Bermuda involve the taxation of local corporations, like banks and telecommunications companies, yes, grocery stores, but it's something that we feel is off limits. Why is it off limits? How about taxing services? Traditionally, taxing services. I'm going to get my my hair done and my nails done this weekend. Well, it's not subject to tax. The nail polish, that would be subject to customs duties. But why not a general sales tax in Bermuda that would broaden the tax base, allow us to collect more money from Bermuda residents to help pay off our debt, rather than, again, allowing, relying on someone from, Europe and someone to basically take care of our business. So corporate income tax, yeah, sure. But I think there's this over-reliance on it to solve our problems.
Yeah, I think the idea of taxes feels like political suicide to a political party. Like it's politics, right? If they were to mention, because for years Bermudians would say, "Oh, no tax in Bermuda," and they'll say it's included, right? It's already included. And the idea that, I've always believed from a tourism perspective, I believe there should have been a restaurant tax like Eating Out to help generate revenue for an independent authority per se. There is certain taxes in hotel rooms and so taxes already exist in certain spaces. But I think the idea of taxes really scares people because of what they see in other places. Now, Bermuda already being expensive to most, having that additional tax. But I think what you're basically saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, is more of a luxury tax, right?
Yeah, but let's get to the essentials. So the politicians have been saying, let's get rid of the sugar tax. Thinking, okay, and let's get rid of the duty on Belco fuel. I think these are knee-jerk reactions to a bigger problem. Granted, the sugar tax was implemented poorly. It was supposed the revenues from the sugar tax were supposed to go toward subsidizing healthy food. That didn't happen. It went into the consolidated fund, and probably most of it went into my salary. Bad thing. So that doesn't mean that the sugar tax should be eliminated. And the opposition party and even the government, they're entertaining this idea. Bad idea. Another bad idea. Eliminating the duty on fuel that goes into fueling Belco to produce our electricity. Bad idea. It works for the short term because you alleviate the pressure on poor families, but the longer term vision of sort of what's the term? The energy transition, the longer term energy transition to get us off of fossil fuels, to sort of onshore the production of electricity through wind and solar, so that we can in fact insulate ourselves from rising fossil fuel prices. If you lower the price of fuel, you lower the price of electricity. You make the companies and the households that are deciding, you know what, I'm going to put solar panels on my roof. I'm going to look at renewable energy as a way to move forward. You're essentially disincentivizing that effort, which to me doesn't make sense. It's again, politicians play the short game. They're not thinking 10 years down the road. If you think in the integrated resource plan, which was put together by, it was a democratic process with the business community, with the civic community, and it came up with a plan that would see Bermuda less reliant on fossil fuels and able to produce a lot more of its electricity in the interest of energy security. We just finished talking about food security. Well, there's also energy security. That would go a long way to making energy cheaper. Is it going to do it overnight? No, it's not. Most of the problems, the challenges that we face cannot be solved overnight. Now, unfortunately, there are these things called populist politicians who will play the short game and get you, or hoodwink you, quoting Malcolm X, hoodwink you into believing that there are short-term solutions. There are none. It's going to be painful. We just have to acknowledge and accept it. There is no quick way out, but we have to start. And what I see is just dragging our feet for one more year, dragging our feet. And the problem continues to get worse and worse.
We've got a few people in the audience. I guess they want clarification. Michelle White, she says, would this be a reversible sales tax to get us out of debt? We don't need more money taken from us. And then we have Traveling Trotty saying, would a service tax increase the cost of living? And I'll just add this to it so you can answer more than once. Charles Jefferson II says, if a sales tax was added, would Mr. Simmons recommend a way for those who earn a lower income to at least get a portion of that back?
Okay. So again, speaking to tax reform, you're looking at the tax burden that Bermudians will face. So one of the first things that has to happen, you need to get rid of customs duties. Why do we have customs duties? We have customs duties because it's easy for the government to collect the tax. Customs duties are arguably one of the most business unfriendly tax you could ever have. It's business unfriendly because you have to pay the tax before you sell the product. So if you're bringing in, let's say, pedal bikes, you got to pay the duty on the pedal bike before you sell the first pedal bike. Well, that just doesn't make business sense. And what happens if you don't sell the bikes? You still paid the tax. To my way of thinking, it would make far more sense to allow the entrepreneur to bring in the pedal bike and at the point of sale, then charge the tax.
That makes sense, sir. I get it. And I'm grateful for you explaining that. We've got another question. Shamari Skyline says, should Bermuda look at buying land overseas, Canada, USA, UK, or giving loan guarantees to Bermudians living overseas to farm similar to what China does?
Food security, yeah. Well, first up, Bermudians have already started. Bermudians own land around the world, whether they choose to farm it or put an apartment building on it or a house. Bermudians regularly save in excess of $3 billion a year, and 2 of those $3 billion go overseas to buy assets. Now, should the government be involved in buying land in some place like Dominican Republic or somewhere else in the Caribbean? No. I think that's something that an entrepreneur could look at. Yes, the Chinese have been doing it. It is one way, I suppose, of looking at food security. But with that comes the problem of security of land tenure in someone else's country. Bermuda's legal structure has firm property rights. If you own the property, it's yours. The government has to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to sort of take your property. In modern day Bermuda, it's happened in the past, but in modern day Bermuda, we would have to find a jurisdiction that respects property rights as we do before, an entrepreneur goes down to the Caribbean or some other place to buy land to farm. But that is one of the options I would think an entrepreneur, and I know of a couple of entrepreneurs who have done that kind of thing, purchased land in the Caribbean and bought the food up from the Caribbean to Bermuda. It is a business model. How successful it was, I don't know. The entrepreneur that did that has since passed. But yeah, these are the kinds of things we need to be looking at in terms of our food security.
Hmm. Thank you for that, sir. We've got Sean Smith's asking, what impact would moving solely to a GST system have on Bermuda?
Okay, so there is no single tax. We need to create like a portfolio approach. You don't want to rely too much on any single tax, which takes us really back to corporate income tax. When you think about it, if the premier's estimate, and it's interesting that he has an estimate because I went to a forum back in December by the Tax Reform Commission, and the chairman of the Tax Reform Commission, Darren Johnson, said there is no one in Bermuda that knows what that number is, but yet the premier has seen fit to throw out $750 million at being the number. But I digress. That $750 million corporate income tax, when you think about it as a proportion of the overall tax revenues, $750 million worth of corporate income tax, and if the tax target is about $1,200, $1,300 million, you're talking about putting all of your eggs in one basket. That would be a horrible, horrible place to put the people of Bermuda in. So what I see is a tax structure, a reformed tax structure, where no single tax has more than, say, maybe 30 or 40% of the total tax take. I mean, if you look at the present tax system with payroll taxes bring in, oh boy, it's about 500 million. Already that's close to 50%. So in many ways, we are overly reliant on payroll tax. But I understand why we're overly reliant on payroll tax. It's easy for the government to collect, just like customs duties. Remember, governments are lazy, just like me. I want to take the path of least resistance. Yeah? Having to work to collect your tax dollars is something that nobody wants to do. So a goods and services tax, no, we don't want to become overly reliant, but you want to sort of spread the sources, whether they be payroll, a general service tax, a land tax. You want to spread them evenly. You don't want to be overly reliant on anything. You know, unfortunately, in Bermuda, we're overly reliant on international business. And back in the 70s and 60s and 80s, we were overly reliant on tourism. We just keep going from post to pillar, relying too much on a single source of income, whether you be the government relying on customs duties, or whether you're the government, you're relying on payroll tax, or whether you're the government and you're relying on corporate income tax. It shows laziness. That's probably the best way to describe it. But having a tax structure, a portfolio approach, where 30 to 40% per tax spread over as many sources of tax as we can find is the way to go. That way, when one of those tax sources goes south, the whole tax structure doesn't go south. That's the basic idea behind diversification.
So wow, you're opening some eyes this morning, because Michelle White says, thanks for explaining. Does paint a different picture for sure. And again, I think when people hear tax, they think big bad wolf, but even over on Instagram, Mia Chambray said point of sale, then charge the tax. I love this idea. And again, I think one of the things is we only complain about what we think we know. Sometimes when we're having discussions and we find out that there are other ways or different options, it opens our minds up a bit more. So I'm thankful for that information. But with the current state we're in, what would you say the Bermudian people should be doing to secure themselves in an uncertain economy?
Save. Having said that, the majority of Bermuda's population, the data speak volumes. Since about 2005, the majority of Bermuda's population, I'm talking blue collar folks, have seen their salaries decline. if you're in construction, if you're a farmer, basically blue collar, the purchasing power of the income that you take home is buying fewer and fewer goods and services. That's just the reality since at least 2005. That's in spite of the fact that the economic pie has been growing. And so we have these two Bermudas, one blue, one white. If you are a white collar worker working in international business, you've seen your salaries go up healthily and you're smiling all the way to the bank. You can complain about high food prices, but still, you can buy yourself a case of Bordeaux wine. You can take multiple vacations a year. You're living well. But that's the minority. The majority of Bermudians do not see that, in spite of the fact that the pie is getting bigger. So, the elephant in the room is this thing called inequality. It's something that a labor government doesn't like to admit. The Progressive Labor Party. Now, to be fair, overly concerning yourself with the distribution of the pie, of how the pie should be sliced, can get you into trouble, because you can disincentivize people who make the pie in the first place. But there has to be a balance. So when it comes to inequality, there's two ways to tackle it. One would be, which is what the government has done, it has lowered the payroll tax for people earning under $96,000 a year. And they've been very clear and loud about that particular tactic. Yeah. So in other words, you've got poor people in your country and you're trying to target that particular group. The other way is to sort of realize that you've got to give people the means to not be poor. And the number one means to get people out of poverty is to target people at this sort of, pardon the term, the low socioeconomic people, by giving them the connections that they need to move up the socioeconomic ladder. One of those ways is through education. You need an educational system that gives people the ability to earn a decent living. One of the things we're doing at Bermuda College is, in fact, connecting low socioeconomic people with high socioeconomic people through our Monday night course that sort of is free to all. This thing called social capital is something that we haven't spent a lot of time understanding, but it's back in a segregated Bermuda, arguably social capital, that connectivity between low socioeconomic folks and higher socioeconomic folks was higher. If you were a doctor and you were Black, you were a member of a Black club. Yeah. And so your working class people, a mason, unskilled labor, had connectivity to the doctor, a sort of A-rated mechanic. And so you had this transmission, you had the ability. If you think about parents of folks who have gone to college, and you've got a kid that's going to college, the kid who has parents that have been to college, who have applied for scholarships, is at a huge advantage over the kid who has got parents who don't know anything about applying for scholarship or applying for university or for internships. That's one of the things that we're again trying to do at college. We have this, one of the programs is this insurance-linked Bermuda College partnership, where we in fact take our students, who for the most part are the first to go to college. They don't have parents who can advise them about applying for scholarships, applying for universities, applying for internships. And so what we're trying to do is to put our students in contact with people who are in the industry, who know about navigating the labyrinth of university applications, of navigating the labyrinth of scholarship applications. And another shout out for Bermuda College. It is arguably the most successful institution that has moved people, low socioeconomic status people, from that position into higher ranks, for a minimal amount of money. Now you can say, well, you know, I went off to Harvard. Well, Harvard and those Ivy Leagues are extremely expensive. Yeah, they don't give you good value for money.
No.
A college like Bermuda College has done more, I say it again, than any institution in Bermuda to move people from their lowly socioeconomic status up the ladder. The numbers would make your eyes water. I think about the students that I have. Let's call some names. The present Minister of Economic Development, Bermuda College student. Gino Smith, he's now recently been appointed to the Bermuda Monetary Authority as one of their directors. You know, the list is extremely long. And if you think about the return on investment, you know, so you take the cost, let's say, I don't know, $5,000 to put someone through a year's worth of community college. The return on investment is in the double digits. These are the things that will solve the problem. But again, it's not a quick fix. Yeah. So the government gets more brownie points by lowering the duties on food or lowering the duties on fuel that makes electricity not so expensive. And we all, you know, we can sort of say, oh, they're doing something. But arguably, the horse has already left the stable at that point in time. We need to be proactive and understand that these policies are going to take at least a decade to bear fruit. If you put an avocado pear tree, a seed in the ground today, you're not going to get avocados tomorrow. You've got to wait. And in the interim, you've got to nurture. We have to think long term. Yes, offer these short-term breaks, but it is not the be-all and end-all. Connecting people from lower socioeconomic statuses with higher is arguably the most sensible way for us to proceed. So if you are one of these people that works in international business, it is incumbent on you to reach back and mentor some low socioeconomic person. You know, when I at Bermuda College, then, you know, I meet young people, super smart, smarter than I could only dream of being as smart as most of these young people. And all what they really need is a hand up. They need a mentor. They need someone who's going to show them the ropes. But I have to say, we're not doing that. There are not enough people in our community who are reaching back to mentor young people. We're too busy shopping in Paris, you know, enjoying the good life. But if you want to sustain that through the generations, it is incumbent on you people. That's right, I'm going to use that word, you people who are doing well, you people who are north of $150,000 a year, you know, households incomes in the $250,000, $500,000, to mentor people. If you're not mentoring, you're not doing enough. And you really have no excuse. I tell my students all the time, when I come and knock on your door asking the favor, there's only one response. It's how much? Because I've had the benefit of sitting in a coffee house one day and a student come up and start a program. This ILS Bermuda College program is from an ex-student who would put down $10,000 and say, this is for students to go to a conference, an insurance conference. That costs $1,000 a head. Reaching into his pocket and putting down tens of thousands of dollars a year Now, there are a lot of our people who TAWK. They just do that talking stuff, but they're really, really short on actions. I spend my time right now hanging around people who do, folks who are going to help my students. And the talkers don't even speak to me. You can ignore me.
Talkers, yeah.
Talkers, yeah. We need people with action, folks who are actually going to mentor our students, who are going to put money down for our students to go to conferences, to go off to university, because we have the resources in this blue versus white Bermuda.
Yeah.
Blue collar folks are suffering.
And I hope people understood. I hope you understand, because I remember leading up to the 2017 election, there was a lot of talk about the two Bermudas. And I think directly what we're saying is, yeah, there are two Bermudas. There's the white collar and blue collar. It's we've moved from the political race context of there being black and white. So I think I understood that correctly. Mr. Simmons, the budget is early May. Can we get you on what you want, pre or post budget? We definitely want to have you on post this, because break it down for us.
I am a retired person, and I am at your beck and call. All I do is sort of sit here waiting for someone to sort of holler at me and say, hey, what's up? Can we go for lunch?
we appreciate it, because the comments coming in today just emphasize the importance of why we created this show 5 years on. And Michelle White says right here, what I love about Mrs. Simmons, having Mrs. Simmons here, is to explain what leaders don't. They continue to speak at the high level when they admit that the majority are not at that level, continue to school us. But I think that's strategic, right? If you speak in a certain way and use certain language and people don't understand, they can't ask questions, right?
Well, here's another one for you before you kick me off your show. The contributory pension fund. It's no secret that it's going to go belly up around 2040. And again, I'm shouting out for Bermuda College. The course that I run on a Monday evening, the most recent evening, Monday just gone, we had Chantel Cardenas from Hanover Re. And the topic was health, life, and annuities, pensions, how old people like myself are going to survive retirement. So the contributory pension fund came up, and she pointed us to the most recent actuarial study that the government has done. I think it was in 2020. So your listeners, the contributory pension fund, Google it. It'll take you to the government site, and you can look at the document that was done by actuaries. So the problem with it going belly up by 2040, the big problem is that everybody pays about approximately $36 a month into this fund. Well, how do you expect that fund to continue to survive if everybody is paying $36 a month? We have to be willing to put more into the pot, and it shouldn't be a fixed amount. So a blue collar worker should not be paying the same as a white collar worker. I'm going to put it out there. It should be like the payroll tax. It should be either proportional or progressive. As you make more and more, a bigger chunk should be coming out of your paycheck towards social insurance. That way, you could guarantee its sustainability indefinitely. It's not rocket science. And for the life of me, again, it's politically perhaps untenable to talk about increasing the social insurance contribution of people in Bermuda. They'll just sort of think of this as just government taking more money away from me. But no, we're talking about this situation with seniors. Seniors are both the richest people in Bermuda and the poorest people in Bermuda. And we've got to put our sort of heads together and figure out a way to target those at the bottom. And we've also got to find a way to sustain this contributory pension fund. The $36 a month for everybody is just ludicrous. Again, we need to have conversations with our politicians, let them know that we're not short-term thinkers, that we are thinking 10 and 20 years down the road. Because many of the problems that we have in Bermuda today are because of short-term thinking. See if we can sort of, change our ways.
He had a question. He said, I thought the government passed that law to move social insurance to a percentage base.
Haven't seen it yet. I don't know. Check your pay stubs at the end of this week, at the end of the month. But still just a flat rate.
Yeah, Mr. Simmons, Zena Trott, I think she speaks for many in the audience. She'd like a pre and post budget thing. But one quick question about the budget before you head out. So the budget's usually presented February. At times, I think it's been pushed back to March. Obviously, there was an election. But outside of the election taking place, why else would the budget be taking place in May after the fiscal year is already begun? Do we know why? Is that a good sign or a bad sign?
I would not want to speculate. There's a word I want to throw out. Ultra-crepidarian. It's a wonderful word. Don't ask me to spell it.
I'm going on dictionary.com, sir.
Yes, ultra-crepidarian. Speaking outside your area of expertise. I don't want to do that. I'm not a sort of politically minded person. You found it?
Ultra
crepidarian. So it's ultra, C-R-E-P. Oh boy, I'm a horrible speller.
I found it. Ultra, C-R-E-P-I-D-A-R-I-A-N, noting or pertaining to a person who criticizes, judges, or gives advice outside their area of expertise. Thank you. Okay, got you. I'm sorry to go off track, but I've been telling people for years that I actually keep dictionary.com open from my days in radio, because I admit I am not the smartest, Bob in the chandelier. I'm not. So I do that. I'm just very public about it just now, because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who didn't understand it. But thank you, sir. Thank you. And it makes sense. And I appreciate your transparency and honesty with that, because it's easy to speculate, and then that leads to one thing and one thing leads to another. So I appreciate that. But we have to get out, and we're looking forward to having you back post and pre-budget to have discussions about the finances and the way we're going. So thank you. And cheers to you. Oh, one more quick thing. We did have a comment. It was, you were being recognized. Mr. Simmons, congratulations on your recent acknowledgement from Bermuda College as a distinguished employee. I look forward to celebrating you at the college gala on April 5th. Congratulations.
Okay. This is sort of like
news to you. Well, we're excited. We're celebrating you. We're going to celebrate you regardless. So congratulations. And
I think the correct response is thank you. Wow.
Yeah. Congrats to you. Congrats. But we'll definitely be in touch. Thank you for making time for us, and we'll chat to you soon.
All the best.
All right. Craig Simmons, folks, if you appreciated that conversation, do us a huge favor. Give us whatever platform you're on, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, Instagram. Give us a like, a love, a follow. You want to share that conversation with as many people as possible. And the reason you want to share it with people is because a lot of the stuff, he was not here to be critical of government. He was here to really break things down and engage us on a level where we can all understand and educate us. I've said it to you for years. The businesses are not the big bad empire, the evils that we make them out to be. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll have a daily play, and then I will leave you alone for the rest of the day. All right. So Be back in a minute, 55 seconds. Stick with us.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazark Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
Join us as we celebrate 5 years and 1,000 plus episodes of community conversations on Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. The Daily Hour Gala takes place on April 26th at LF Wade International Airport. For more information and advance tickets, please send an email to admin@bermudacommunications.com. We look forward to celebrating all that's great about our community with all of you.
Did you know 3 out of 4 people say that they have a good understanding of life insurance? But do they really? When asked how much the yearly cost would be for a 20-year, $250,000 level term life insurance policy for a healthy 30-year-old, 80% overestimated the cost by 5 times the amount. Ready for this? The true cost for that policy is about $220 a year. That's as little as 66 cents a day, or $20 a month. So let's put this into perspective. Compared to other monthly costs, isn't getting life insurance a no-brainer? If you can trim back on some of these expenses just a little bit, it will allow you to dedicate the savings toward an affordable life insurance policy. Contact one of our life insurance agents today to find the right policy for you.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. Thanks again to Craig Simmons for stopping by. Always appreciate the conversation. Audience, again, if you appreciated the conversation, regardless of what platform you're on, make sure you give us a like, a love, follow, share it. Make sure you subscribe to our social media platforms. You can join, become a YouTube member, subscribe on our website. You want to be a part of these community conversations that we hope really do drive and move our community forward. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House Lindos and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we can have these community conversations with you on a regular basis. It's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, it's music today. It's music, folks. If you all don't get this, just drive quietly in your car. Don't even turn on a podcast, let alone radio to listen to music. This is probably the easiest one you'll ever have. So I hope everyone, not only everyone gets it right, but everyone answers this. Here's your question. It's music. What song do these lyrics belong to? Quote, "Let's get together and feel all right," end quote. Yes. Boob Marley. I guess that's Bob Marley. Don't worry. Well, that's not it. It's One Love, Stacey Ann Brown. It's One Love, Rashida Godwin. It's One Love, Bob Marley, says Nicole Walker. It's One Love, Renee Simmons. One Love, Mark Hussey Phillips. One Love, Diane Elliott. It is Bob Carlitos Davis. It is Bob Marley, Barbara Darrell. It is One Love. Let's get together and feel all right. Absolutely. Folks, hey, I just want to say this. Close it out by saying, regarding the hospital, don't wait until you need it and it's not there for your use to speak up and do something. I'm not here to change people's minds. I'm not here to get you to think like me or live like me. Trust me, you don't want to. But what I hope to do every day, I turn this mic on and this camera and engage you, is just inspire you to think and think differently and consider different perspectives. And today, my hope is that if nothing else from that discussion, you walk away with one thing: the ability to want to help, even though it may not be impacting you directly today. We have a crisis at our hospital. It should be of everyone's concern. Regarding the conversation with Mr. Simmons, I honestly don't know what I can add to what he said, other than this: we need more conversations like that. This show was created so that we can engage with the likes of Mr. Simmons, so that we can entertain the level of conversation that he brings to this platform. That's why our hope is that the people like the BAC Group and the Medical House and the Lindos and the Peoples and Friesenbergs and Mailboxes and Noah's Ark and the BDC, when they support us, this is what they're supporting. And the hope is that every last person who engages on a regular basis leaves with something new, whether it can help them or others. So I'm grateful for Mr. Simmons. When you first mentioned taxes, oh, it's scary. But when you break it down and give people context, it becomes helpful. Here's some daily inspiration for you regarding that. Comes from Booker T. Washington. And the quote says, "Few are too young and none too old to make the attempt to learn." Think on that. It's time for me to say, don't forget to subscribe on our website, follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy, for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a regular basis. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are Izzel. Peace.